man, you need to buy yourself a gun. What? Gun? What? Like a handgun for personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. What? One automatic rifle and a lot of ammo. Gun?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. We are live. This is Primer Time on UCY.TV. My name is Michael.
I'm Nicholas, and it is good to be back after the 2-week hiatus.
Yeah, life happens, man. You know, that's part of this wonderful thing of being non-professional radio and, well, you know, just two guys talking about what we like and enjoy. So, in your 2 weeks off.
Non-professional, actually. I think that's good.
Yeah, I'm kind of partial being non-professional. I think your rates are lower. You know, you're not taxed as much, and you know, that's kind of the way I see it.
That is correct.
Did you get to do anything fun in your?
We had a 16th birthday in my house, and then we also had some, some other stuff going on. That some illness floating around, whatever that pre-flu season gunk that seems to go as soon as the kids hit school, and that hit my house pretty hard. I was the only one left standing, and knock on simulated wood grain, and praise be to Dos Equis that I didn't get hit. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I got sick after last week's show. I kind of I had a strange cough at about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and by the time I was done with last week's show, I was not feeling too hot, and I was getting sick like Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday of last week. I was running a fever, that kind of a noise. So yeah, it came out of nowhere. Bad cough. I'm just kind of getting over it, so I'm going to do my best to not coughing on everybody tonight.
Yeah, that's good because it gets loud in the mic.
Right. So, did you have a chance to go out and do anything kind of fun in that 2 weeks when you were like playing with the sick kids and all that?
I sure did. Actually, was able to go out and do some hunting. Used a bow for the first time and was able to take a doe with it. So I was pretty happy about that. Got a friend.
Tell me about it.
So I got a friend of mine that has a couple of compound bows, let me borrow one, and we went out into a area that we had been, so, you know, doing my thing of pattern analysis, and came up with what I thought was a good avenue of approach for these deer. And sure enough, the day that I was thinking that, you know what, they've been hitting this stuff probably for the last 3 days in a row. If I don't do it now, they'll probably change their pattern. So we went out, and on Friday, sat from about 2 in the afternoon till about 6:15, and then at 6:20, a doe came out, and she made the mistake of coming out right where I was sitting. So it put a good arrow right through her shoulders, and actually glanced off her spine, which broke her ability to walk, and the arrow did put her down.
Really, so no having to go and chase it and track blood trails and
Nothing.
all this thing,
That's right. That I've ran 100 meters, absolutely no heart muscle left, and just existing on what oxygen they had in their lungs, and they ran for 100 yards. Hit her in the shoulder, and the way that the arrow broke through the front shoulder, it deflected going up, and that glanced off the spine, and apparently that paralyzed her from the weight, from the front shoulders back, and then after it hit the spine, it bounced down to the opposite side shoulder and broke that shoulder as well. So she was down on the ground right there. I made a quick job of getting down and putting her out, and we had deer for dinner on Saturday.
That's awesome. That's really cool. How much meat did you get out of this deer?
Well, what we ended up doing is, because it was a 4-man hunting party with two new hunters, and then one of them didn't have a license. He was just to experience the hunt. I did the nice thing and made sure that I split up the deer, and namely because I don't have a big chest freezer yet. I sold the one that I had in Germany. I haven't replaced it yet, but I went ahead and took a tenderloin and a backstrap, and then took some of the haunch that we decided to go ahead and carve up on the spot. So I've got some probably about 3 or 4 pounds of deer meat, but I'd estimate we probably pulled about 80 pounds of meat off of between 4 people. Well,
now, okay, let's just kind of figure out even cheapy hamburger, the 73% stuff. That's probably about $3, $4 a pound.
Well, you got to figure that when you take a deer to get processed in many locations, you're spending between $60 and $80 per deer, and they're going to give you 20 pounds of sausage or 20 pounds of chili meat, ground up. You're going to get some off the back straps or the tenderloins. You got to here for all that, and I was able to do it with a couple of friends and really get out and enjoy the woods, and I think I saved quite a bit of cash.
Oh, I would definitely say so. I mean, I just know that 2 pounds of hamburger cost me somewhere close to $10 the other day. So yeah, you're doing fairly well like that. That's very cost effective, and you're getting quality food at that.
This is as grass fed as they come.
Right. Now, was this at your new spot?
No. So
you went to?
This is at the 8-acre plot that we have, and my partner is actually he's been able to go out because he lives about an hour from me, and he lives closer to the location where we're hunting, which is the farm. And he's actually been able to locate for me a couple of different funnels where some of the big deer are actually making scrapes, and they're actually rubbing their antlers on the trees. So we're actually we're getting set up. Rifle season's coming up pretty soon, and if I can't get back out there with him for bow season, definitely going to go out there for rifle season. And in addition to that, the farmer has given me permission explicitly to shoot as many coyotes and groundhogs as I see fit.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah,
popping the groundhogs would be kind of fun.
Being from the southwestern portion of the United States, we don't exactly have groundhogs. I didn't know what groundhogs are, but we have them out here in droves, and I figured they're probably like prairie dogs, but a little bit bigger. And you see the one that's there in Pennsylvania every February. These things aren't small. They can get up 15, 20 pounds. I think is the heaviest. So I did a little bit of research, and apparently people eat groundhog.
Well, I would imagine that if people pretty much eat, in the end, it's all meat.
Yeah. So it's one of those.
I bet you are going to be fun.
I think so. And that'll give me the opportunity to go ahead and take out the 5.56 and the 300 blackout and see which one I prefer. And I'm thinking just by the sheer ballistics of it, I think the 5.56 is actually going to be better, because the 7.62 bullet, if rabbits in Texas are any indication, I think that it may flip them about 20 feet from where they stand.
Right. And, maybe you'll find that you do enjoy groundhog meat. I would almost guess that it's like javelina meat, because groundhog's really not a pig. It's like a rodent, isn't it?
Yeah, and all that, they're pest animals, at least on the farms, because they create holes all over the place, and horses will tend to step in holes and break legs. So the farmer is very, very I may be able to. Just that, if you go out there with your buddy and he's bow hunting and you're out there target shooting, you got to be in separate areas, because Mr. Green Jeans will show up, and if you got archery tackle and you got a rifle, he's more than willing to write you a ticket.
Now, how would you, if this is a pest and you wanted to take out the AR-15 with the 30-round magazine, 5.56? Well, how is your local county mountie or, Fish and Feather Patrol? How's he going to react to you saying that?
Well,
groundhogs.
It's private property, so you can do anything and everything almost on private property, and because it is a farm, it's just farming control. So for them, it's no issue. In my location, the Fish and Game officers do not have arrest rights or anything like that. They can only inspect containers for what they believe may be illegal or illegally done articles of fish. And say, let me see your papers, please.
That's a little bit different than it works out in my state. Texas Department of Wildlife. They're pretty much just like cops, and honestly, I think they've got more powers than cops, because they can pretty much make entrance on anybody's residence without any kind of warrant or anything, under the guise of looking for untagged meat.
Homeland Security.
Right. And it even goes beyond that. Our Game and Fish in Texas now, they have a dedicated SWAT team. And
well, you never know when you're going to have to go back up against those deer who decided to go ahead and arm themselves.
Yeah, up armored deer.
Yeah.
Kevlar flavor.
Yep.
Yeah. The mindset of the war on terror is reaching down to the sportsmen. I did see, I believe it's Texas Firearms in San Antonio had a fairly interesting marquee sign today, and it was buy a gun to defend your home from ISIS. And I think we may have jumped the shark with that one.
Maybe a little bit, but you never know. It's funny, because I did receive, as a matter of fact, today I received my official government notification that, oh, by the way, you're responsible for the protection of classified information, but guess what, folks? We messed up. We didn't protect yours. So here, try this free credit monitoring.
So let me ask you, who's got your magical information?
I would say that is the Chinese Cyber Division. They probably have about 80 to 100,000 current and former federal employees. That is without saying that that's just that one individual, not every single person that's been connected to them through an investigation, which will go into the millions of people that they actually have the background information on. So, you can't get a solid estimate out of anybody, but I will tell you, we have 540,000 active duty soldiers, and we've been at war for the last 14 years. That's a lot of folks that have had access to security clearance information. And yeah, the Office of Personnel Management, they've actually had their director has been removed, unwillingly at first, but then she just kind of decided to say, yeah, I'm done. And so this is from the acting director that I received notification of, this form letter that they use.
So let me ask you, so it's the Chinese have your information, and let's just say everybody in the United States military, anybody works for Department of Defense or anything, What do they know about you?
They know everywhere I've ever lived, worked, or went to school in the last 20 years. They know all my know all my addresses, phone numbers. They know my social security number, and more than likely, they know everything about my comings and goings throughout my military career. So thanks, Office of Personnel Management for screwing me.
Right. Now, how much is on Hillary's server? That's it.
Oh, speaking of Hillary's server, we have the Democratic national debate going on right now, and
That's right.
I don't have it tuned on right now because I prefer to listen to what the enemy is saying as I have a chance to spit out whatever it is that I'm drinking at the moment and hitting pause. But I did happen to see the panel assembled. Noticeably absent was Joseph Biden.
Oh, Joseph Biden did not show up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty interesting because I know that CNN said they were reserving podium for him. That's quite interesting. Now, recently in the past couple of days, the two major candidates to get any kind of traction right now, which of course would be her Lord and Highness Miss Hillary Clinton and the communist from Vermont, Mr. Sanders, both have come out with some fairly harsh statements on firearms and gun control. Bernie Sanders just over the weekend had said that he wishes to ban every semi-automatic weapon, that there's no need for anybody to have a semi-automatic weapon in the United States.
Yeah,
and Hillary pretty much copies whatever Bernie is saying now.
So here's my point. Right off the bat, we have a party that one of the leading candidates, and I'm going to say that Bernie Sanders is a leading candidate because he's taken the lead in a few of the key first states that are going to hold caucuses and votes. You remember Bernie Sanders set himself up as an independent all those years who caucused with the Democrats. Now he's pretty much on the record saying that he is a socialist, and if he's a socialist going for the Democratic National Convention, where does that really put the Democrat Party?
Right.
I'm going to have to say that
puts that off the left, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say that's a little bit more tastes great than the less filling side of the house.
Well, I'm going to kind of look at this Bernie Sanders thing a little bit more because he's got a lot of popular support, very similar to Ron Paul, and also very similar to Ron Paul. He has no major corporate sponsorship. He's got a lot of individual donors, but he doesn't have the big massive from let's say Goldman Sachs or JP or HSBC or
I was going to say in Hillary's case, Chinese firm.
Or Chinese firms, insurance companies, the ones who, the movers and shakers, so to speak. So I kind of see Bernie Sanders not going anywhere, in very much the same way that Ron Paul didn't go anywhere. He may have the votes and he may have everything else and all the popular support, but Diebold counts and the money ensures that Diebold counts. And Hillary, I'm sure, is at center stage right now.
Oh, she certainly was as part of the process of turning off the television. I did happen to notice that she was very prominent in the center of the stage, and she was looking exceptionally plastic this evening. So the way I look at it is that none of these candidates that are up there are really going to be lobbing any kind of heavy artillery at Hillary Clinton and her family. They're not going to hit hell in Haiti during the earthquake was ran through Bill Clinton and his foundation while his wife was Secretary of State. Nor are they going to go over any of the facts of the matter that pertain to what a lot of people see as the intentional misleading of the American people with regards to the investigation in Benghazi and her repeated dealings of inability to secure information that is classified with regards to her server. So I think that when it comes down to the Bernie Sanders effect of being able to generate a lot of interest in a lot of stupid college kids, yeah, I don't think he's going to get much further than that. You know, Vermont is a state that
it's a lot of idealists, and I think it's a lot of idealists and dreamers that are getting behind Bernie Sanders.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
I mean, to be honest with you, I've seen somebody say that, you know, since they put a Bernie Sanders sticker on their car, they've become a better driver. And I just, okay, you know, I mean, did Bernie cure your cancer too?
Well, you know, the way I look at it is Bernie's what, 74, 75? He's up there, right? He's been in the
74.
Senate. Yeah, he's been in the Senate for roughly
30 years.
30 years. You know, I saw pictures of him with very curly brown hair with his, you know, I guess 70s or 80s. I would say you're not part of the solution, Bernie. I'd say you are part of the problem. You know,
Absolutely, 30 years.
30 years, and you haven't figured out a way to get stuff done. Yeah, I'm going to say that you fit right in there with the Clintons, and you know, when it comes down to it, Hillary is just going to do the old misdirection, and she's going to say this is a vast right-wing conspiracy. This is a Republican-funded attack and a war on women. And the only thing that I can really say to that is let's talk to all those women that were part of the war on women. That, you know, Michael, it takes a village to satisfy Bill Clinton.
It takes a village to satisfy Bill.
So
I saw something that Jennifer Flowers was going to kind of like start speaking out and releasing some juicier details about Bill. I thought, well, you know,
thing out there that can. Bill is pretty much Teflon. If you know, he was convicted in the House. He did escape conviction in the Senate. You know, he was impeached. So, you know, the guy is stained now. He's come out of it a very, very popular guy. I mean, women still love him. Women, you know, as crusty and as frail as this guy is, he looks like Skeletor now.
Yeah, he lost some significant weight since he was president. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the cheeseburger jogging president. You know, he'd go jogging with the Secret Service right down to the McDonald's and then eat like 2 Whopper Max.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some kind of other good, you know, bloodborne disease.
Yeah, we have some sort of heart. Did he have a heart attack or something like that?
Well, I know he had a quadruple bypass a while back, so, you know, maybe that has enticed him to go ahead and slow down on the double quarter pounders. But, you know, the way I look at it is, regardless of which side of the aisle you watch, you know, I take my cues on their stance on firearms. And when you look at it, Martin O'Malley comes from Maryland, which is about as friendly to a gun owner as, you know, Los Angeles is, or, you know, any city in the Bay Area. There's nothing there for Bernie Sanders if he's saying that he wants to ban all semi-automatic firearms. I mean, he comes from Vermont, which is considerably a more rural
which
state.
I find really interesting that he's always pushed that, you know, he's respected the rights of sportsmen and hunters and gun owners, and he's never really kind of joined in on any major, you know, the routine voice scream for gun control after everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, he comes from a state where it has a very, very strong hunting tradition, and it also has a very, very strong sense of the right of the person to own and bear firearms. So, you know, it kind of goes against that whole 30 years in the Senate and never really taking action up until he's on the national stage. So, you know, you can look to see if he's just trying to, you know, hit one of the core principle tenets of the Democratic Party, which I'm assuming that he is now in the running for their nomination, that he's going to have to drop that little I that used to come in parentheses after his name, and he's going to have to put a big old D in there, and that D means douchebag.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that. The flip-flop on the guns negated anything beneficial that he had to say. And I mean, I take them all with a grain of salt. I'm going
to stop you right there, because you're not a self-avowed socialist without having you lost your mind. So I'm going to tell you this.
No,
30 years ago, if he would have said he was a socialist, let's see here. Well, 30 years ago would have probably put him in, the end of Reagan's term during. If you would have said socialist in government, you would have been tarred and feathered. Right. This says a lot about the state and the way that a ideology takes root, and the levels at which the people who espouse this go, because it starts in the schools. It starts with, I told you the story about going to elementary school in California, and I can remember very clearly my teacher having an informal polling of the students saying, which ones of you students think that we should or shouldn't have guns? And being the only one in the class that said, yeah, we should have guns, because if we don't have guns, bad guys have guns. And this was near Los Angeles, and we saw bad guys doing bad things every day. It was the summer of the drive-by shooting.
Oh, the summer of the drive-by shooting, and then there was also, like the Night Stalker, and of course there was, what was it? It was the Hillside Strangler. There was, there was all kinds of, wonderful stuff going up in California in the late '80s, early '90s. It was kind of a Wild West, and bringing up California, Los Angeles has some Los Angeles County and the city of Los Angeles themselves have some fairly strict laws regarding firearms, that even surpass the state laws. And, Los Angeles has now enacted a confiscatory ban on what are euphemistically known as high-capacity magazines. Now, in the state of California, right, exactly, standard capacity magazines as issued by the manufacturer. State of California has long but for new purchase. Now, if you owned these magazines, there was a grandfathering clause, and I believe in some counties you had to register your high capacity magazines. And of course, high capacity is always said in quotes. Now, Los Angeles has enacted a complete ban on these, which leads to confiscation and calls for confiscation. And
is this retroactive to all citizens, to include law enforcement, or will law enforcement again be excluded from said legislation?
This is just for the little people. This is not
for the everyday Joe.
Right. This is not for the king's horsemen.
Yeah. Well, we saw that with the New York SAFE Act, that when things get ran through in the middle of the night without debate and as a knee-jerk reaction to situations, it's never going to work out very well for the little guy. And the sad thing is that those folks that are on that stage right now, they subscribe to the belief that you as an individual should not have the right to bear firearms. That is a key tenet of that party's, their platform. It's interesting to me that Bernie Sanders, like I said, coming from the state of Vermont, that he is flip-flopped in such a way that he's basically going to abandon what he's basically stood by for the last 30 years. So I wonder if those Northeast states that do the first couple of primaries, I wonder if that's going to have an impact on them.
It'd be fairly interesting to see. I don't personally think that his flip-flopping is really going to affect his popularity in any way. I don't really think that any kind of true firearms enthusiasts were really Bernie Sanders supporters anyhow.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can be a socialist and you're not going to have a whole lot of the gun enthusiast crowd backing you.
Yeah, well, part of like the whole Marxist and the Bolshevik and the Menshevik idea is to basically disarm the people, because we want all the power resting in the hands of the state, because the state is all known for you far better than you can look out for yourself. And if you disagree with that, well, they don't want you to have a way to say no.
Yeah,
And I've said it many times, a firearm is your last best way to say no.
well,
I do not comply.
speaking of last best ways to stay alive, we got some stories out of the never-ending government contract side of the house, and that would be Colt Firearms recently being granted the $212 million M4 contract, which will go until 2020.
Now, how many rifles does this call for? Because I touched a little bit on this last week, but I didn't have all the information right there. What do you got? How many? What's the number of rifles that this is calling for?
Well, right now the the award is like I said, $212 million, and this is going to be a fixed price multi-year contract for M4 and M4 Alpha 1 carbines for the Army, and the estimated completion date will be September 24th, 2020. Don't have an actual number of firearms on whether this is going to be retrofit and or new production, but this is a big boon for a business that's
Right,
getting
so we
ready
gotta
to be bankrupt.
And partnered off with some Turkish manufacturer most likely. So let's see, we got 5 years on this contract, $212 million. That's that's a good chunk, over $40 million a year.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that it's odd how this business that's been doing their thing with so is saved in the 11th hour. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's it's a business in Hartford, Connecticut that is in knee deep with a politician or two somewhere.
I wouldn't got that either. Now let's say out of this 200 million, which is that's a significant amount, man. You think the Colt's going to improve any kind of quality and bring back what the average consumer's looking for? Because honestly, the average consumer's not looking for a 1200 H bar.
Yeah, no.
Right now you've got Palmetto State's got a complete rifle kit minus the upper for $329, and then they've also got minus the lower for $329. And you go on there, cruise a little bit further on their site, you can find 3 different kinds of blemished lowers, which is just a cosmetic imperfection. And honestly, I've had a hard time finding them, and the ones that I've seen for $30. So now you've got a build-it-yourself AR-15, which is just as good as any of the other ones in the end, for less than $400. Colt's market strategy of selling $900 to $1,800, $2,300 specialty rifles really kind of
upsets
I don't think
for the average buyer. That's for sure.
Well, I don't think it's prudent. I don't think it's a business model that will stick. I mean, we're in a different economy than we were, back in 1990.
Well, but that's the thing. Colt has long eschewed the value of the individual buyer, and that's evidenced by the price that they charge for their wares. Colt has survived on the golden goose of the government contract for a long time, and that's almost part of their business plan, is that get that contract and stay locked into it for as long as you can. And you know what? They don't care about putting out, new and innovative products when they can keep fixing the crap that they've been selling the government for years.
Well, and what is actually defined as innovative for them? Putting more rails on the damn thing?
You can either put more rails on it, you can put polymer now because, polymer is all the rage. But, when it comes to actually putting lead on target, you're not going to be able to fix that. You're going to be able to get minimalist improvements with every tweak that you make. And in order to get that one little improvement, you're going to see a whole lot of production flaws before you get there.
Well, and a lot of cost and a lot of heartache for consumers in the end, because, they're beta testing a lot of stuff on the average guy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're going to survive off of going to the SHOT Show. They're going to go out and hit some of those Bitterroot Valley shoots. Maybe they may even go overseas, and they may try and get in on some of the market that the HK and the FNs have done in Europe by going to the different.
I don't think any European countries will take an American rifle. I think they've got a better chance of selling that American rifle somewhere in Asia or in the Middle East or something.
Or if it just, happens to be given in an airdrop directly to ISIS by cutting out the middleman, which is the the Syrian 4 or 5 guys that we trained successfully.
Yeah, for $500 million.
Yeah, it's a small return on investment. It's a long-term strategy.
Yeah, when those guys Colt executives that had turned into some sort of like jihadist or something, because that's seriously crazy money. I did see that we are dropping 50 tons of ammo into Syria to replace whatever was lost. The Russians blew it up.
Yeah, well, you can go ahead and airdrop that stuff to people who are largely illiterate. Good luck with that.
I don't I really don't understand how the Syria thing is running. I don't understand how it's totally okay to arm the what are widely regarded as terrorists, and without a background check, we don't know anybody's name, address, social security number, anything like that. But here, we've got different issues. So
yeah, but I mean that's the thing. I think we've got different issues because we've got different factors that are being pushed to the forefront every day. We had the latest shooting event. You've got let's see here. You've got a couple of police officers that have been killed in the last couple of days. His Honor Rahm basically has said that the police department in the city of Chicago is largely responsible for themselves being targeted. I found that to be extremely interesting.
When did he say that? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he actually came out with that earlier today. So, for those of you who don't know, he is the mayor of Chicago, and
it's likely a Mossad agent. Let's not forget that. He was a member of the Israeli military. He was He was like the right-hand man of the president, and now he's mayor of Chicago. I think we're pretty screwed when we've got a Mossad agent in our midst running. We're running the third largest city in the United States. Come on now.
Well, the interesting thing is that he's basically saying that the police themselves are responsible for their own inability to police the city. He's basically said that they have allowed their police department to get fetal, so to mimic the fetal position, and it's having a direct consequence. Quoting him still, he says they have pulled back from the ability to interdict. They don't want to be a news story themselves, and they don't want their careers ended early, and it's having an impact. So very, very close to what we have seen over the last 9 months or so in Baltimore. You've got these mayors in these cities that are run and have been run for ages by certain affluent parties that are basically telling their cops that, hey, you guys suck. You're not doing your jobs. We saw it in New York with the police department from New York City turning their backs on the mayor there.
And didn't they kind of went on a mini strike there, and I believe crime dropped something like 36% in that time that they, I think like homicides and beatings and rampant violence like that dropped like 36% while those New York cops were off duty. I thought that was fairly interesting.
Well, the interesting thing is statistics aside, because we all know the statistics are 90% BS and 10% emotion. It's interesting that as these police departments are being criticized, you're seeing huge rises in the number of homicides going on in those countries. I'm sorry, in those counties and cities where those mayors establish themselves. And the interesting thing is that I heard recently that there was going to be a push to allow legislation that is going to be used by some of these folks that like to file frivolous lawsuits against manufacturers of firearms to be able to go ahead and target those manufacturers in the event that their firearm is used in the commission of a crime. So I think that this is all part of the plan. And whether it be San Francisco, where the city and county board of supervisors has basically targeted the last remaining gun store in the city to shut down.
There was some seriously like inconveniencing rules for that gun shop. This was the last gun shop in the city of San Francisco. And being that it's the last gun shop in the city of San Francisco, I'm fairly certain that every one of their transactions was highly monitored. I truly doubt that they were going to sell, a high point to a gangbanger.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's the business was operating legally. I'm sure they had, constant surveillance on them by city and county law enforcement. This is the same city and county law enforcement that released a illegal alien who has been deported multiple times. But it's a
sanctuary city, dude.
Well, and that's the thing. Sanctuary city just means we're going to screw the native-born taxpayer to pay for everybody else who isn't here, legally.
Right. And, put their rights ahead of yours because they come from, a rough background and they had a tough childhood and, well,
Well, it's not only that.
America.
It's not only that, but you know what? Take a look at this. This directly relates to firearms because when you have a permanent underclass, and having lived and worked in San Jose, California, which has a very large population of, I wouldn't even say Mexican, I would say Latino illegal aliens. These are people that literally live in a shadow environment of what the United States actually is. I mean, this is a shadow society. They have their own finance. They have their own commerce, and they have their own law enforcement because, whether it comes down to the actual gangs that are in that area, I will tell you, just like in any Chinese community, there's not a whole lot of going to the cops and talking to the district attorney and turning state's evidence. That doesn't happen. So
no, and then that's pretty much in any kind of immigrant community.
Right,
exactly. Nobody necessarily wants to talk to the cops because I'll tell you what, I live near Vietnamese, and they don't want to talk to the cops. And honestly, they don't have any cops that speak Vietnamese, and any one of them can just turn off the English at any time. So then they got to wait for a translator to come in from Houston or something like that. Then that's nothing to say of the large Hispanic population here, which is not all Mexican by any means. I mean, there's a fair number of Guatemalans, Hondurans, El Salvadorans. You pick it from Central America. They're here and they're working and waiting to go to the great big land of Houston.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting to me. So the way I look at it is that you got a permanent underclass who, until recently, there's been a push to go ahead and grant these individuals the right to purchase firearms. But for the average natural-born citizen, the push is to take the firearms away. So
right now, as these immigrants like this, if they've got they don't necessarily need to be a citizen to buy a firearm. They can be a resident alien and buy a firearm, right?
No, not in any jurisdiction that I've lived in. And
I'm pretty sure in the state of Texas, if you're a resident alien and you've got no legal impingements such as like a felony or some sort of assault charge or a pending traffic ticket or anything, I'm pretty sure you can you've got the ability to buy a firearm as a resident alien.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that because you gotta take a look at it's not just a state issue. It's also going up to a federal thing for the ATF.
I'm almost positive that a not even a naturalized citizen, just somebody with a residency card can purchase firearms.
So when you look at the 4473, which is the form that every new purchase of a firearm has to go through and be recorded on, section 11 sub paragraph J, K, and L has to deal with citizenship, and it asks you if you've ever renounced your United States citizenship, which Rahm Emanuel has by operating in a foreign military. Are you an alien illegally in the United States? And are you an alien admitted to the United States under a non-immigrant visa? So,
student visa or
yeah, student visa, H-1B. This is all the different categories of visa that have not to do with becoming a lawful immigrant alien. Yeah, you're not exactly going to go ahead and be you're not going to be approved for likely a purchase.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. Living in an area that's, well, honestly, it's probably about 50% Hispanic, and by 50% Hispanic, I mean 50% brand new Hispanic, brand new to the country Hispanic. First generation and under. Their kids were born here. They weren't born here. A lot of those guys are kind of aware, something's going on, and there's kind of a surge of interest in that group in my area of obtaining firearms.
Yeah,
and I find that to be kind of interesting. I think it's an interesting metric to look at, to where this group is being completely pandered to by politicians, at least in word, maybe not even by act, because in the end they're broke.
Yeah,
they're rich by, even if they get a bunch of free government food stamps and whatever, they're not rich by any means. They work their ass off, but I find it interesting that they're looking now to the ability to take care of themselves.
Well, and this is what I mean about living in a shadow society. We spend billions and billions of dollars to root out the Taliban in Afghanistan, running a shadow government outside of the legitimate government in Afghanistan. We're spending lives, we're spending fortune, and we're not really seeing any result. And yet here we have in our own country, we have a segment, and by all accounts, a very large segment of our populations that are operating every day in the shadows and are not afforded the proper protections that an actual citizen is here. And trust me, you will have no other ardent supporter of legal immigration than I am, being a product of legal immigration, a generation ago. Right. You will not see anybody who is more ardent in the abstention of allowing illegal immigrants. You know what? If you're a business and you employ illegal aliens, I think we should go after you for every cent you've ever made. I
kind of agree with you. It's I've always looked at the illegal immigration and the depression of the wages as one of the many wars against one of the many weapons used against the Americans' freedom. And you couple the fact of the depressed wages, the rush on firearms, and when I mean rush, the cry for restriction of firearms, and then there's another interesting angle that they use to push on the firearms is they like to eliminate the lower priced firearms, and they give them all sorts of dirty names. They're Saturday night specials, they're throwdowns, they're the Ring of Fire guns. And there's many
ghost
different
guns.
Well, the ghost guns are a little bit different. Ghost guns are the ones you make on your own, right?
Well, if they're the ones that you have the 30 round magazine clip.
Right. When you got your 30 round clipazine inserted into that ghost gun, it actually acts on its own.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking at are some of these more bargain price firearms. Let's just pick on the High Point and say maybe some of the Jennings Raven models. Personally, I think High Point is a damn good firearm for what it is. It goes bang, almost every time. If you got the right magazine in that gun, it will go bang. They've got an excellent warranty. If you've got a problem with it, send it back to them. They'll take care of you. They're damn stout pistols. I really doubt you're going to break one unless you really, really manhandle it. It's not going to, blow up because you got some odd ammunition in it. Some, an overpressured round or anything. I mean, they're double plus P rated.
Right, and not only that, you got some other manufacturers like Bursa. Talked to a coworker the other day, and was surprised to hear that she has a Bursa Thunder in 380, and the only problem is that her father put it's hilarious. Her father put a trigger lock on there and has since lost the key, and they don't know what to do with it.
I would say, you know what? That's a very interesting question. I'm glad you kind of brought that up for tonight. How would you take care of that?
Me personally, I would go ahead and drill it. I would drill the center of
I
that.
think I'm with you on that. I'd drill that. I'd drill it myself. Other options for somebody who may not have a drill, because, well, as Miss South Carolina shows, we have many Americans without maps, and I'm sure those Americans without maps also do not have a drill.
I was going to say, many U.S. Americans do not have drills.
I think we sent our drill to the Iraq or to the South Africa.
Yes. Such as.
I would say, a trigger lock is usually not a one-off item. If you could determine the brand, I'm sure you could probably contact the manufacturer and maybe get a replacement key. I would almost guess that a lot of those are keyed the exact same.
Yeah. The way that I would look at it is, if you go back to the company that sold the firearm, because in a lot of these states the requirement is that a trigger locking device is sold with it. Specifically in California, I did happen to actually buy a pistol in California, so I know that is a law.
It actually has a lock that goes over the trigger, because like here in Texas, you buy a firearm brand new and you get like a cable lock.
Yeah, it was a cable lock for the pistol that I purchased. They really look at the trigger locks for revolvers. It's probably going to be worth saving your receipts and your. They have something in California called a dealer's record of sale, the DROS, and that is one of the things that they're going to want to see to prove that you've actually legally purchased that firearm. So, once you go ahead and send that information back to them, I'm sure they'd either send you a voucher to go have a service performed at a licensed shop.
Yeah, that's a pain in the ass. I'm going to tell you this. Everybody go out there, find yourself like an 1/8 inch drill bit, and get to work on that. And they're probably nothing any bigger than a 1/4 inch drill bit to take care of it.
Yeah, you go ahead and
block that thing up good and just hit it with the drill.
Yep, keep it lubricated. Keep that drill bit lubricated as you're
right. That's a good point. Don't just start drilling into it. Maybe use a little bit of WD-40 as you spray it on there.
WD-40. When you see those folks on YouTube using the lathe, you definitely want to go ahead and have something that is going to have a very, very, very high flash point or boiling point, because you're creating friction. So you're going to want to have something.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get a flash off a WD-40 using it. Even if it got really hot, and you're not drilling all that much. I would say maybe even some gear oil you can put on. Drop a little bit of gear oil on it while you're drilling it. It's just going to help you cut a little bit better, and you save that drill bit, because drill bits, just like any other tool, firearms being a tool, drill bits aren't cheap unless you get the Chinese ones.
Yeah,
and
you probably want to go ahead and invest in those diamond carbide drill bits. But like I said, there's a ton of different ways to skin a cat. In my opinion, if you want to do something that doesn't require you going back through the manufacturer or going back to a licensed repair shop for firearms, you can probably do that yourself.
Right, and that's something interesting to point out. If you were to take that firearm into a licensed repair shop, I believe that would almost count as a transfer to the.
It would, because you're actually taking it out of your possession, bringing it into somebody else's. So the other possibility is that you deal with somebody who is a locksmith, and the locksmith is probably going to want to see some paperwork also to make sure that you're the legal owner of the firearm.
I think the paperwork a locksmith will want to see has is green and has Jefferson on it.
Yeah. It's probably going to have for
Franklin in there. Jackson, maybe Benjamin's.
Yeah, you're going to want to see a Franklin in there too.
Probably. Yeah. So I think you'd be better off going to get yourself maybe a little bit of gear oil and a drill bit and working on that.
And definitely going to want to have that in a vise.
Yeah. Block that up. Make sure that it's sitting. Kind of have an idea of where the trigger would sit normally in the firearm with the trigger or with the trigger lock off. If that means Googling up some pictures and kind of just getting a rough estimation of it, be pretty careful, and you shouldn't harm the firearm at all.
Right. Because basically what it's going to come down to is that you're going to be able to crack through the center of it and then slowly you're going to want to move toward the edges of the lock to where you're going to be able to bust through and then be able to compress that lock so where it drops out. So, this isn't anything that's going to be banned under the Internet Traffic and Regulations law that's upcoming. But, you definitely don't want to impact the trigger mechanism itself. You don't want to go ahead and drill through that because it's a pain in the ass. And
oh yeah, and in one of those bursts, it would be kind of a pain in the ass to replace the trigger. That's those bursts are basically copies of Walther pistols, which are they're very good designs. It's a design that's been copied by many manufacturers. They're usually a fixed barrel design, which you don't necessarily remove the barrel. You remove the slide, and the slide kind of comes off of it. You got to pull the trigger guard down, which kind of releases everything. And they're fairly stout designs, but fairly unforgiving of certain mistakes like that. It's not necessarily fun to replace the trigger on one of those.
It's not fun to replace a trigger on one of those, and it's certainly not fun to replace a slide on a CZ75 pistol after it drops off and bends on the back end of the frame. So. Oh
yeah, that's not good. And those CZ75s, those aren't cheap, man.
No. They are the preferred weapon of choice of the Iraqi insurgent circa 2006. So, speaking of, Mike, we need to go ahead and hit some firearm safety.
All right. First rule of every firearm is that the firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect that it is not loaded. So go ahead and take the magazine out. Open up the action, however that may be, and look inside that chamber. Make sure there's no bullet, and when you close it up, make sure you don't put a bullet back in it. Rule number 2 is keep that muzzle pointed in a safe direction at all times. Don't cover anything you don't wish to destroy with that muzzle. Rule number 3 is know what your target is, know what is beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4 is probably the most important rule. Nothing gets done without it. Keep that booger hook off the bank switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon.
That is it. And certainly if you're living in one of these cities that has experienced a spike in violence, you definitely want to go out there and make sure that you're armed, because the cops, well, basically they put themselves into the fetal position. So you may not be high on their list of priority responses. So
you're just little people at this point. So you're just somebody to be taxed and hit with fees and basically harassed.
Yeah, certainly. So when it comes down to it, I'm interested. I've got the debate on the DVR right now. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to see what they say regarding the push to ban certain things, because
I almost feel tonight what they're going to say is they're going to get a great big consensus of firearms are bad. And somebody will say, "Well, I don't want to get rid of my firearm."
We already know that. That's part of their platform. That is a part of the party platform. They're not standing up there because they believe in the individual right to bear arms. They're standing up there because they believe that the individual does not have a right to bear arms.
Right. All you have is a right to pay more tax.
That's it. You have a right to pay more tax and pay more money so that your ballot can get printed in 13 different languages.
Right. And don't worry, it'll all be counted by Diebold.
Yeah.
It don't matter what you put.
Oh, don't worry. Corporations are people. We learned that.
Corporations are people, my friend.
That's it. So, Michael, it's good to be back after the 2-week break. Big shout to our listeners out in chat. Thanks for being out there, guys, and hopefully we go ahead and get some good thanks out to Jules for putting us up and getting us on UCY.tv.
Jules really puts in a whole lot of work. She's basically built this by hand, and there's a lot of really good radio here. And I mean, I'm telling you, if you haven't had a chance to listen to some Brandon Tuberville, you're missing out on some really seriously good geopolitical analysts. He's got kind of a take on, definitely the serious situation that, we're just not getting from anywhere else. I mean, he's got actual boots on the ground contacts. So really, really good stuff coming out of him. He wrote a book on Hillary. It's the 36 reasons why not to elect Hillary. And my favorite quote from him is, is there was more, but I couldn't fit it all in the book.
There you go. All right. Big shout out to our buddy and friend of the show, Chris. And Michael, good to talk to you.
It was wonderful. I'm glad you're doing well. Hug and kiss to all your kids and all their sickness and all that. Tell them I was a little bit down with them myself.